My name is Veronica Stone. I'm 28 years old, and the night my relationship ended, it didn't sound like heartbreak. It sounded like someone calmly explaining why I was no longer necessary. I'm writing this from a borrowed room in my friend's apartment, staring at a single suitcase by the wall. Everything I thought I was building is still sitting somewhere else. Or maybe it isn't anymore. A year ago, I believed I was in a relationship that made sense. Ethan Cole was 29. We had been together for 4 years, starting just after college. I met him at a mutual friend's party. He was magnetic in that effortless way, talking about design, ideas, the kind of future that felt bigger than the room we were standing in. I was the opposite. Structured, predictable. A software developer with a stable job, clean routines, and a life that didn't swing wildly from one extreme to another. I thought we balanced each other. He brought color, I brought foundation. From the beginning, I was all in. When Ethan lost a freelance contract during his final year, I picked up extra work without hesitation. Late nights, weekends, anything to keep things steady. I covered rent when he couldn't, paid bills without making it a conversation. He used to rest his head on my shoulder and say, "You make everything feel safe." I thought that meant something. Looking back now, I think I misunderstood what safe meant to him. Around our second year, I started saving for a ring. Not something extravagant, just something simple, intentional, a quiet promise. By last year, I had enough. We were living together in a small apartment downtown. I handled most of the expenses while Ethan built his portfolio. In return, he filled the space with his art, his energy, those small touches that made it feel like a shared life, or what I thought was shared. There were signs, late-night networking events, messages he wouldn't explain, moments where he felt somewhere else, even sitting right next to me. I told myself it was stress. People go through phases. You support them through it. That's what I believed. So when I finally decided to propose, I wanted it to be quiet, personal, just us. I made a reservation at our favorite restaurant, the same place where we had celebrated birthdays, small wins, ordinary nights that felt important. And I made one mistake. I told his sister, Sarah Cole. They were close, the kind of siblings who shared everything. I thought I could trust her. We met for coffee. I showed her the ring. Her eyes lit up instantly. "It's perfect," she said. "He's going to love this." There was something about the way she said it. Too quick, too certain, but I ignored it. I left that cafe feeling ready, like my life was about to move forward. I didn't know I had just handed my future to the wrong person. The night before the dinner, Ethan came home late. He didn't kiss me, didn't ask about my day. He just stood there for a moment like he was deciding something. "Sit down," he said. Something in my chest tightened. I tried to keep things light. "We could order in, watch something. You look tired." I said, "Sit down, Veronica." So I did. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. His expression wasn't angry. It was detached. Sarah told me about the ring. Everything inside me went still. What? She told me, he repeated, almost amused. Couldn't keep it to herself, I guess. I felt heat rise behind my eyes, but I forced my voice to stay steady. I asked her to keep it private. "Yeah, well," he shrugged. "I'm glad she didn't." That was the moment something cracked. "Why?" I asked quietly. He let out a small laugh. "Because it saves us both the awkwardness." The word hit harder than anything else. "Awkwardness? Come on," he said, rolling his eyes. "You were going to propose. That's cute, I guess, but I'm not there. Actually," he paused, looking directly at me, "I'm ending this before you embarrass yourself." Silence filled the room. Heavy, suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat. "You've been thinking about this," I said. "For a while," he replied easily. Then he gestured around the apartment. "You're great, Veronica. Stable job, reliable, all that. But it's predictable. I need more than this." And then he said her name. Lila, his ex-girlfriend. "She gets me," he continued. "We've been seeing each other for a couple of months now. She's spontaneous, creative, not," he glanced at me, "safe." Everything started connecting at once. The late nights, the distance, the excuses. While I was building a future, he was already leaving it. "I've outgrown this," he said. "You're like a safety net, and I don't want to live like that anymore." I sat there completely still. There were 1,000 things I could have said. Why didn't you tell me? How long was this happening? Did any of it mean anything? But none of those questions would change the answer. So I didn't ask them. I just stood up. "So that's it," I said. "Yeah," he replied, almost relieved. "I'll pack my stuff tomorrow. You can keep the apartment." I nodded slowly. Then I reached for my jacket. "If that's how you feel," I said, keeping my voice calm, "then we're done. No tears. No scene." I walked past him, opened the door, and stepped into the night. Behind me, the door closed with a quiet click. And just like that, 4 years ended without a single raised voice. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every sacrifice, every time I chose him without hesitation. And all I could hear was one word: safe. By morning, something inside me had shifted. Not healed, but decided. I went back to the apartment while he was out, packed a suitcase, my laptop, a few books. I left my key on the counter. No note, no explanation, just absence. By the end of the day, I had transferred the lease into his name and moved into a small studio across town. It was empty, quiet, mine. That evening, my phone rang. Sarah. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then answered. Hey, she said, her tone careful, almost rehearsed. Ethan told me what happened. I didn't respond. Look, she continued, he's just figuring things out. You were moving too fast with the proposal. He needs space, with Lila. With Lila, I repeated. Yeah, she said quickly. And honestly, you two were comfortable, but maybe that's not enough. You should talk to him. Work it out. Don't just walk away like this. Something about her voice, calm, rational, like she was helping, made everything clearer. This wasn't just Ethan. It was the way they all saw it. Twisted. Rewritten. I exhaled slowly. Thank you for telling him about the ring, I said. She hesitated. I thought it was the right thing. I'm sure you did. Then I hung up. And that was the last conversation I had with any of them for a long time. Not because I didn't have more to say, but because I finally understood something simple. Silence was the only thing they hadn't prepared for. The first few weeks after I left felt unreal. Not dramatic, not explosive, just quiet in a way that made everything echo. My new studio apartment was barely furnished. A mattress on the floor, a small table by the window. No pictures, no shared history, no reminders of someone else's presence lingering in the air. At night, the silence pressed in harder. There were moments I'd reach for my phone out of habit, thinking about something small, something I would have told Ethan, and then stop halfway through the motion, because there was no one to tell anymore. Grief doesn't always look like crying. Sometimes it looks like stillness. I didn't chase answers. I didn't call him. I didn't ask for explanations that would only reopen something I had already decided to close. Instead, I focused on what I could control. Work, structure, routine. I went to the office early, stayed late when I needed to, took on projects I had been putting off. There was something grounding about solving problems that actually had solutions. I started going to the gym again. At first, it was just to burn off the restlessness, the anger I refused to express out loud. But slowly, it became something else. A rhythm, a way to come back to myself. A coworker suggested therapy. I didn't think I needed it until I sat in that chair and realized how much I had been holding in without even noticing. Not just the betrayal, but the pattern. How easily I had made space for someone else until there was barely any left for me. About a week in, the calls started. Ethan first. I watched his name light up my phone one evening while I was sitting on the floor, eating takeout straight from the container. I didn't answer. It rang, stopped, then rang again. A message followed. Hey, can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Then I turned my phone face down and kept eating. The next day, another message. I think we should clear the air. Clear the air. As if what he had done was just miscommunication. I didn't respond. A few days later, Sarah tried. Her tone was different this time. Softer. Almost annoyed beneath the surface. Veronica, this is getting childish. He's trying to reach out. You should at least hear him out. Childish. I let the words sit in my mind for a moment. Then I blocked her number. That was the first real boundary I set. And once I did, it became easier. Ethan called again from a different number. Voicemail. Hey, I just think we ended things too abruptly. Lila and I, it's not what you think. I miss talking to you. Miss talking to me. Not sorry. Not accountability. Just discomfort. I deleted the voicemail without listening to the end. Days turned into weeks. The noise faded. And in its place, something unexpected started to grow. Clarity. Not the kind that comes all at once, but the slow kind. The kind that builds quietly, until one day you realize you're not replaying the same memories anymore. Around the third month, I noticed something strange. I had gone an entire day without thinking about him. It wasn't a victory. It was just absence. And somehow that felt bigger than anything else. That was also when the first rumor reached me. A mutual acquaintance from work mentioned it casually over lunch. Hey, I heard Ethan moved in with his girlfriend. Lila, right? I kept my expression neutral. Yeah, I said simply. They move fast, she added. Like, really fast. Of course they did. Some things don't change. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. Because I already knew how that kind of story tends to go. Still, more pieces started to surface. Not from people trying to stir drama, but from those who hadn't chosen sides. The kind who just observe. Ethan wasn't as stable as he had made himself sound. Freelance work, inconsistent income. Lila, on the other hand, had structure. Clients, deadlines. From what I heard, she was the one covering most of their expenses now. The irony didn't escape me, but I didn't feel satisfaction. Just distance. Then came the turning point. The kind of information that doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in fragments. A comment here. A pause in someone's voice there. Until suddenly, the full picture is impossible to ignore. Ethan had cheated on Lila. That part, by itself, wasn't surprising. But who he cheated with? That's what made everything shift. My sister, Danielle. Even now, saying it still feels unreal. Danielle and I weren't identical in personality, but we were close. Close enough that she had known everything about my relationship with Ethan. Close enough that she had watched me build that life piece by piece. Close enough to know exactly what it meant. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought it had to be exaggerated. A misunderstanding. But then more details surfaced. They had been seen together. Not once. Multiple times. Late nights. Private conversations. The kind of familiarity that doesn't happen by accident. And then it broke. Lila found out. Not quietly. Not gracefully. There was a confrontation. Public, loud, ugly. Voices raised in places where they shouldn't have been. Accusations thrown without restraint. Lines crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. I heard about it days later. How Lila had shown up unannounced. How she had seen them together. How everything after that had spiraled. Ethan tried to deny it. Danielle tried to deflect. But the truth has a way of settling into a room, even when no one wants to acknowledge it. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a fracture. Lila left. Danielle stopped answering calls. And Ethan lost control of the narrative he had been so confident in. For the first time, the consequences weren't quiet. They were loud, messy, unavoidable. A week after that, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. Veronica, I need to talk to you. Ethan. Of course. I messed up. Things with Lila are over. It's complicated. I need someone who understands me. I stared at the screen. There it was. Not remorse. Not reflection. Need. Another message followed quickly. I've been thinking about us, about what we had. It wasn't boring. I see that now. I let out a slow breath. The same word. Repackaged. Now it had value again, because everything else had fallen apart. I didn't reply. That night, he called. I watched it ring, listened to it stop, then ring again. Finally, I answered. Not because I missed him, but because I wanted to end it properly. Veronica, he said immediately, relief flooding his voice. Thank God. I didn't think you'd pick up. I won't be long, I said calmly. There was a pause. Then he rushed in. Look, I know things ended badly, but you have to understand. Lila wasn't what I thought. And Danielle, that was a mistake. Everything just got out of control. A mistake. Everything. Always something happening to him. Never something he chose. I've been thinking about you, he continued. About how stable things were, how easy it felt. I didn't appreciate it before. I closed my eyes briefly. Not from pain. From recognition. You miss what I provided, I said. Silence. Then, carefully, I miss you. No, I replied softly. You don't. Another pause. Longer this time. I'm alone now, he said finally. I don't have anyone I can talk to like I could with you. And there it was. The truth. Not love. Not regret. Absence. I let the silence stretch just enough for it to settle. Then I said evenly, That's not my responsibility anymore. He exhaled sharply. So that's it? You're just going to walk away like none of it mattered? It mattered, I said. That's why I left. His tone shifted, frustration creeping in. You're being cold. No, I said quietly. I'm being clear. I ended the call before he could respond. Then I blocked the number. And for the first time since everything ended, I didn't feel like I was reacting. I felt like I had finally chosen. Time didn't fix everything, but it changed the weight of things. What used to feel sharp became distant. What used to echo slowly faded into background noise I didn't have to respond to anymore. About 6 months after I left, my life stopped feeling like something I was rebuilding and started feeling like something new. Work picked up in ways I hadn't expected. I got promoted to a senior role, more responsibility, more pressure, but also more control. The kind of progress that didn't need validation from anyone else. I started traveling again. Short trips at first, weekends, places where no one knew my name, where I could just exist without history attached to me. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I met Adrian Blake. He wasn't loud, didn't try to impress anyone, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, it actually meant something. We met through a photography workshop I almost didn't attend. I remember standing there, camera in hand, debating whether to leave early, when he walked over and asked, "Do you always look like you're solving a problem when you're taking pictures?" I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt unfamiliar at the time. "Only when I'm overthinking it," I said. "Then maybe stop trying to get it perfect," he replied lightly. "Just take the shot." Simple, uncomplicated. We started talking after that. Not intensely, not in a way that demanded anything, just steadily. And that was the difference. Adrian never tried to fill space in my life. He respected it. He didn't rush closeness, didn't test boundaries, didn't make me feel like stability was something I had to apologize for. With him, calm didn't feel like something lacking. It felt like something real. By the time a year had passed, I wasn't thinking about Ethan anymore. Not actively, not in the quiet moments. He had become irrelevant, and that's something no one really prepares you for. How someone who once defined your daily life can eventually become nothing more than a name you don't react to. That night, Adrian and I were at a small restaurant downtown. Dim lights, soft music, the kind of place where conversations stay low and the world outside feels far away. We were halfway through dinner, talking about a trip we were planning, when I felt it. That subtle shift in the air, the kind you don't notice consciously, but your body does. I looked up, and there he was, Ethan, sitting alone at the bar. He looked different, not in a dramatic way, just worn down, like life had taken something out of him he didn't know how to replace. For a second, our eyes met. He froze, then stood up, and started walking toward us. Adrian noticed the change in my expression. "Do you know him?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I said. I didn't elaborate. I didn't need to. Ethan reached our table before I could decide whether I wanted him to. "Veronica," he said, breath slightly uneven. "I didn't expect to see you here." I nodded once. "Hi, Ethan." He glanced at Adrian briefly, then back at me. "Do you mind if I sit for a second?" He didn't wait for an answer. He pulled out the chair anyway. That told me everything I needed to know. Some habits don't change. "I've been trying to reach you," he continued, his voice already carrying that familiar edge of urgency. "I know you blocked me, but I needed to talk to you." Adrian stayed quiet, present, not inserting himself, not withdrawing either. Just there. "I don't think this is appropriate," I said calmly. "But it could be," Ethan insisted quickly. "If you just listen for a minute." His eyes flicked to Adrian again. "She doesn't know you like I do," he added. "We have history." There it was. The attempt to rewrite relevance. I didn't react. Instead, I said evenly, "Adrian, this is Ethan." Adrian gave a small nod. "Nice to meet you." Ethan didn't return it. His attention stayed on me. "I messed everything up," he said, his voice lowering now, almost desperate. "Lila's gone. Danielle won't even talk to me. My family. It's a mess. I've lost everything." He leaned forward slightly. "But you were always different. What we had, it was real. I just didn't see it then." I listened. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to understand one thing clearly, whether anything had actually changed. "I'm not asking for everything back," he continued quickly. "Just a chance, to talk, to fix things. I know I hurt you, but I can make it right." I held his gaze, and for the first time since he sat down, I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no pull, just clarity. "This isn't the time or place," I said. "But it could be," he pushed again, voice tightening. "You're with someone, I get it. But that doesn't erase what we had. She's not—" "Stop!" The word landed softly, but it was enough. He went quiet. I gestured slightly toward Adrian. "This is Adrian," I said, "and we're having dinner." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're really just going to throw everything away like this?" he asked. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because it was familiar. That same inversion of reality. "That already happened," I said. Silence settled over the table. Heavy. Final. "I hope things get better for you," I added, my tone even. "But that's not something I'm part of anymore." For a moment, he just stared at me, like he was searching for something. A crack. A hesitation. Something he could use to keep going. There was nothing there. Finally, he stood up. "That's it?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I said. No explanation. No elaboration. Just truth. He lingered for a second longer, then turned and walked away. This time, he didn't look back. And as I watched him leave, I realized something I hadn't fully understood until that exact moment. It wasn't over because he walked away. It was over because I didn't feel anything when he did. Adrian reached for his glass, then looked at me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah," I said, and I meant it. Not in the way people say it to move past a moment, but in the way that comes from knowing there's nothing left to resolve. We went back to our dinner, to our conversation, to the life I had built without needing to prove anything to anyone. Later that night, walking home under quiet streetlights, Adrian slipped his hand into mine. No pressure, no urgency, just presence. And for the first time in a long time, peace didn't feel like something I had to defend. It felt like something I had chosen and kept.